needing a little comic relief. But it's my understanding that the initial use of the pointed hat was that Druids wore them as part of their Druidic decoration that would identify them to the people as they moved around from town to town.
And the wand, was the wand basically a tool for channeling energy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. The wand is just basically a stick that's been consecrated for the channeling of energy.
All right. Now, how about the kettle? That you throw the children in and cook the children in.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, we refer to that as a cauldron, and the cauldron is representative of the womb. And there are many myth cycles that Wiccans will sometimes work with, such as the Celtic Caradwyn. Her cauldron is known as the recombining place for souls when they have died and crossed over, and then they emerge anew into a new incarnation. But we just use them to mix up lovely brews.
What about spells? Do Wiccans cast spells?
Certainly. Well, sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. One can be a Wiccan and never cast one spell, because really, being a Wiccan means that you celebrate the religion of Wicca. Now, many witches, as part of their celebration and their acknowledgement of nature and the powers of nature, acknowledge that there are forces of nature that cannot be felt with the five senses. And so we will work with the unseen, and we believe that in sending forth the will into the ether with proper preparation and proper focus and proper knowledge will result in changing something in the known world. And so yes, we do cast spells, but we never cast spells to harm anyone because that's against our rules.
What is the strangest thing that has ever happened to you as a Wiccan high priestess?
Oh gosh, I really wish that I could give you something really dramatic, but it isn't really that I have strange experiences. I have beautiful experiences.
All right, can you share some of the beautiful experiences with us then?
Sure. When someone is in sacred space, one can astrally project and experience going somewhere else while your body is still in the sacred space. I've seen very dramatic healings happen. I have seen, what else have I seen? Well, there's something called drawing down the moon or the sun, which is basically when a trained priest or priestess, and I want to emphasize that one must be trained to be able to do this, takes the god or the goddess energy into their body, and then the god or the goddess speaks to the people who are assembled. And so oftentimes when the drawing down is very successful, the person who's drawing, their countenance will change, their energy changes, their voice changes, and they know and say things that the person who is doing the drawing down could not know. And it's very validating for us to know that we have, in fact, spoken with our deities.
Is it safe for someone who has not been properly trained to pick up a book and start trying to practice Wicca?
It depends on what you mean by Wicca. Now, again, this is my personal opinion. Obviously, not all witches feel this way, but I believe that books that explain how to celebrate the holidays are wonderful and benign and can really lead to some very powerful spiritual work for the solitary person who doesn't have access to a teacher. However, working with the occult aspect of Wicca is, in my opinion, potentially quite dangerous if one doesn't know what one is doing. For instance, I cannot tell you how many times I've been called in to do a house clearing for someone who has decided that they're going to whip out the Ouija board on Halloween night for some fun. And they have opened up a portal in their home, and they can't close it. And they end up getting some real interesting paranormal stuff happening in their home. And two, when someone is experimenting with magic that is kind of beyond their education, one can exacerbate things like mental health problems, one can experience negative attachments, and in very rare cases, possessions. Although I have never personally encountered a possession, I have certainly heard of them.
What's the difference between a white witch and what is the opposite of a white witch? A black witch?
I guess, but I that's something that is discussed a lot in the Wiccan community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the term white witch and black witch or black and white magic, because truly magic is magic. Okay, magic is like a kitchen knife. You can use the kitchen knife to make a beautiful meal for your family.
Definitely.
Or you can kill somebody with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you don't know how to use the knife, you can accidentally cut yourself very severely. And so I wouldn't go so far as to be arrogant enough to call myself a white witch, because there are times when maybe I've done something that isn't, necessarily going to have a perfectly pure effect. We are all human. But certainly there are people who try to go out and use magic for their own personal gain, and that is always a very negative experience for everyone involved, and usually the person ends up becoming quite ill and has some really negative things happen in their life. So we just don't curse people in general, unless we're kind of dumb.
What role does a candle play in the Wiccan ceremonies? I know that different colors are used for different reasons.
Certainly, that is called, it's a form of sympathetic magic. Candles can be used for just about anything. We use candles when we're calling our gods in circle, to light a candle to each of the gods we're working with. We can use candles in spellcraft, where we can attempt to diminish a particular force in our life by lighting a candle, and as the candle burns down, the force is diminished. Candles can be used for just about anything, and there are color coordinations that some people use, correspondences. They're not always necessary. If you don't have a pink candle and the spell calls for a pink candle, you can use a white one, and if your intention is proper and your focus is what it needs to be, then it will work.
Television shows like Bewitched, were they good for Wiccans?
I think you're going to get as many answers as there are Wiccans on that one.
All right, your personal opinion.
I don't think it's good or bad, truly. It's obviously fictional. What happened on Bewitched, there's absolutely no resemblance to what I do on a daily basis in my practice.
You mean you just don't wiggle your nose and all your housework is done?
No, and I'm still waiting for that spell. And also Harry Potter, I really, really wish that stuff worked.
Now there was a lot of controversy when Harry Potter first came out, that there was a heavy association with witchcraft, and I remember interviewing a lady way back when who actually was trying to get the school board that she was part of, and I believe it was somewhere within the Bible Belt, to ban Harry Potter from the entire school board as well as the public libraries. And to me, she was going off the deep end. How did you, as a Wiccan, and how do other members of the Wiccan community feel that what seems to be perfectly all right as a father? I had no problems letting my children or grandchildren watch Harry Potter. I still don't. But once again, I have never seen anything negative about Wicca.
Yeah, I think that people who are afraid that their children might not practice the religion that they taught them might be upset when anything that could even remotely be associated with a maligned religion in their eyes is made child-friendly. I can understand that. I completely believe that all parents have the right to direct their children's religious education. I have a teenager, and I completely stand by that. However, I think that it's apparent to most intelligent people that Harry Potter is a fantastical, fictional story that has created a fictional world. And so, is somebody who's going to watch Harry Potter necessarily going to grow up and be a Wiccan? I haven't seen it yet, and it's been out for a long time.
It's just like these people who say that the strong connection between Wicca and the supernatural. Well, hold on. Name me one religious theology or philosophy today that is not based on the supernatural.
Exactly. I would definitely argue that.
You know, that's the kettle calling the cauldron black.
I would have to agree. I think that really it boils down to the idea that religions are at odds with one another, and our belief is that there's no one way to get to God. Do you want to take a bicycle, or do you want to take a train, or do you want to drive your car? We're all going to the same place. That's the Wiccan attitude. I realize that others don't have that same perspective, but we are not trying to convert anyone. We've never tried to convert anyone. We don't believe in proselytizing at all, and as a matter of fact, it's relatively difficult to get into a coven. And particularly, we do not espouse the practice of Wicca by underage minors without their parents' consent at all.
How many members are there in your coven?
Oh gosh, I haven't counted recently. Some covens, some traditions do go by the traditional 13. We do not. We usually get up around 19 or 20. It really is governed more by how many people you can fit in the living room of the covenstead.
Ah. So the bigger the house, the bigger the coven.
Sometimes.
Aha. I see where this is going. I also understand you're an energy worker.
I am.
How does energy play into Wicca?
Well, energy is a big part of Wicca. The type of energy work that I do as a healer is not related to Wicca. I'm a Reiki master, and people of all religions do Reiki, which is a non-denominational form of healing. However, generally speaking, energy is a very big part of Wicca, because when people come together to create a sacred circle to celebrate either an Esbat or a Sabbat, we are all lending our energy to that celebration and trusting one another with our energy. And it's a very personal, intimate experience that we have with one another and with blending our energies together.
You know, years ago, people did not talk about energy transformation, balancing energy. They didn't talk about Reiki. They didn't talk about a lot of things that we talk about today. Ironically, if they would have, I believe the world would be in a better place today.
Well, I certainly believe so as well. That's how I ended up becoming an energy healer, is that I was working as a social worker, and I was helping women in street-level prostitution change their lives. Wicca has a tendency to be quite feminist. We love our men as well, of course. We're not anti-male in any way, but Wicca acknowledges the equality between men and women. And so I was doing this work, and I was very, very, I was just raw from hearing all of the horror stories, and so I sought out some energy work.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to carry this conversation on the other side of this break that I have to take, Kristan. Please stand by. Kristan Barton is our special guest. Here's a website explanation for Kristan's energy work. GaiaTransformations.com. That's GaiaTransformations.com. And Kristan and I will be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com.
Wicca.com.